Fox News Channel. We report, you decide.
According to a recent Time magazine poll, this year's high school graduates trust their parents, and they trust their teachers, and they trust their doctors. Who don't they trust? Journalists. Why don't they trust them? That is the subject of this edition of Fox in Depth. I'm Eric Burns, and we begin with a look at those precise poll findings which show that of the class of '97, 97% trust their parents. Teachers, doctors right behind, clergy, a bit of a gap. And among other occupations that were surveyed, police officers, lawyers, the President of the United States, members of Congress, all of those above 50%, only journalists, a trust factor of below 50%, 44%. My guests are members of the classes of '97 and '98. In Los Angeles, Adrianna Massari. She is a recent graduate of Hoover High School in Glendale, California. In Chicago, Lee Allen Jones. He is a recent graduate of Martin Luther King High School and a Peabody Award-winning radio documentarian. With me here in New York, Rekha Babu. She is entering her senior year at Briarcliff High School in Briarcliff Manor, New York. And I want to begin by getting an idea from all three of you just how much attention you pay to news. Rekha, how much do you watch? How much do you read?
I think I read more than I watch. I enjoy reading a little more, and I think reading the newspaper. You
read a newspaper every day?
Yeah.
Lee Allen, how about you? Television, newspapers, how much of each?
I watch, I think, a little bit more TV because it's less strain. I read the newspaper every day as much as I can. I watch a lot of news.
And Adrianna, same question to you.
I would probably have to say that I probably read more, probably the newspaper and magazines such as Time and Newsweek.
Now, your mother, I understand, is a news producer for CNBC.
Right.
Which leads me to two questions. First of all, is it okay with her that you're reading much more than viewing? And second, is it okay with her that you have the doubts that you do about journalists?
Yes, it's absolutely okay with her. She feels that it's my, it's my decision in terms of what I want to do with my life and my opinions on journalism. And in terms of watching or reading the news, to her, I don't think it really matters.
Why don't you trust journalists? What kinds of things, Adrianna, bother you most about what journalists do?
Well, I think it's two things. I think the money aspect of the whole thing, just how it's so into the money. What's going to sell the newspapers? What's going to cause the viewers to watch? Also, I think that it has a lot to do with journalists really overly expressing their opinions when their job really is to just tell the news.
Lee Allen, same question. What bothers you?
Sometimes I agree with the young lady in California that some news journalists, they only do it to sell papers and get viewer ratings. If there were more time spent with doing in-depth reporting and finding things out that could help and benefit all people, then I believe journalism will be more trusted by younger people in the class of '97 and classes of, above or beyond us. But yet I believe that with journalism the way it is today, it's only getting worse because the only thing they do is write stories to sell more papers, and the dirtier that they can get, the more that they will print.
But I wonder, Rekha, assuming that that is a view of yours to some extent, if that necessarily means the information you're getting is false. Sensationalized information may show a wrong sense of priorities, but that's not the same thing as being told something that isn't true. Do you feel that you get untruths from journalism or just truths about the wrong kinds of things?
I feel that I am receiving the truth from journalists, but the way it's expressed, I think, can influence people, and especially teenagers. And I think that's why the class of '97 rated journalists very low.
Can influence you how? Influence you into beliefs that are inaccurate, influence you into kinds of behavior that you shouldn't partake of? Influence you how?
I think the facts are all there, but the way they say it sometimes is they take a subjective stand, and they can almost make something like a bad person who committed a horrible crime. You can take a positive stand and almost make that person look good.
I want to tell our viewers something about Lee Allen in Chicago. I mentioned that he is an award-winning, a Peabody award-winning, that is a very prestigious award, radio documentarian. He did a documentary about a 5-year-old boy who was pushed out the 14th story window of a Chicago housing development some years ago by boys who were 10 and 11. The reason for the push, this 5-year-old boy would not help the 10 and 11-year-old boys steal candy. First of all, Lee Allen, did I get that right? Is that an accurate summary?
I believe you got it correct.
Were you motivated to some extent to do this documentary because the way this story was covered by conventional media dissatisfied you?
Yes, I believe that they came in and only wanted to get the story for a week or two when it was hot, when it hit the presses.
So there was a lot of coverage initially.
Initially, there was a lot of coverage with when his funeral and when he fell. But after all of that was gone, the media was gone, and no one had really got an in-depth story about the 2 kids that committed the murder, nor about Eric and his family. So I felt
Eric was the 5-year-old.
Eric Morris was the 5-year-old who was thrown out of the window.
So mostly what you wanted to do, Lee Allen, was not so much change the information people had, but just keep this story in the consciousness of people of Chicago.
No, I wouldn't say that. Conventional media did not get an in-depth look. They didn't dig deep into it. They didn't know that, the 10 and 11-year-old, about their lifestyle before they even committed these murders. They didn't know that these kids could hardly read. So we did that. We didn't want to get the superficial look.
All right, Lee Allen, I have to stop you now, but we have another entire segment. We will discuss this and other topics with our teen panel when Fox in Depth continues.
And balanced. The way we report, the way we cover it, the way you get it. Fair and balanced. Fox News Channel.
Welcome back to Fox in Depth. I'm Eric Burns. Our topic, how teens view the news media. Here's a hint. Despite the promo you just saw, they do not think the news media are fair and balanced. With me in New York is Rekha Babu, who is a high school senior entering her senior year of high school. In California is Adrianna Masseri, who is going to, it's Cal State Northridge in the fall, is that right?
Right.
And Lee Allen Jones is in Chicago. He's going to Florida State University. Lee Allen, ironic, you're complaining at the end of the last segment about the media not going in depth, and I'm interrupting you for a commercial. But at least we're coming back, and I have a chance to say to you, is it your belief that one of the things the media don't do well, that perhaps, as in the case of the story we discussed that you won the award for, the facts were presented initially, but that in some cases the media have a responsibility, or should have one, to stay with the story until all of the deeper meanings are illuminated? Exactly.
When the story was first done, I believe the president spoke on it and members of the House, and they had already prejudged the young perpetrators that had committed the crime. They were calling them super predators and things of that nature. They're only 10 and 11-year-olds. So if they, the crime that they committed was not it was a very bad crime. But yet these are still kids, and if you look at the circumstances in which they come from, then it's not surprising that they could commit a crime like this. The media didn't do that. They were just portrayed as super predators. No one talked about their life. Nobody talked about, how these kids, like I said before, couldn't read, how they, brought crack cocaine to school when they were younger. Nobody had intervened in their lives earlier, so therefore, as they got older, they got worse.
Adrianna, are the media any better at covering stories of particular interest to you and stories about teenagers than they are covering world affairs, crime, that kind of thing?
Yes, I believe that they do a sufficient job. I would like to see more news about worldly affairs, stuff that's going on. I personally don't care what's going on with Kathy Lee Gifford's marriage. I would much rather find out about the Whitewater hearings or the new discoveries that they're making on Mars. That seems much more beneficial to me.
But you know what, you say that, and I'm sure people hearing it, I chuckled, although not cynically. It was nice to hear that, and I'm sure a lot of people felt that way. But I also think that the media give an impression often of people your age that you wouldn't care about Whitewater, that you would care about Kathy Lee. Is it fair to say that you think the media portray teenagers as more shallow beings than you are?
Yes, I think so. I do. I think it's kind of, they kind of stereotype us, you know, into being very interested in the gossip and the scandal. Yeah, I do.
Reka, your opinion as well about how the media cover concerns of interest to you?
Yeah, I agree. The media focuses on the crimes that teenagers commit, and that's only a small percent, I think. There's many teenagers that accomplish great things, and just stories such as the girl that gave birth to the child at the prom, things like that in teenage crime, those seems to be the hot topics.
Except that you all understand, don't you, that this isn't a kind of bias against teenagers. In fact, these kinds of stories are reported about much older people to the exclusion of good news stories, too. And what I wonder, and any of the three of you may answer this, if when you are 10, 20, 30 years older, if you have any hope that the media will be more responsible in these ways, or if, Lee Allen, in your case, you think there's something you can do personally to make the media more responsible.
I believe that once they get a sense of the people that they're reporting on, from the community that I come from, you know, they're not there to cover the graduations nor the good things that young people do. They're only there once a crime is committed, once someone is shot, or something is just tragic, such as the Eric Morse case. If they could get a more understanding of the communities and the people that they report on, then I think that they would look at it much differently. And I believe that the personal aspect of it is to get to know the kids, get to go into the schools and do segments at least once a week or once a month on young people that are doing great things. I believe that if you keep continuing to show them the negative things, then they'll never know that anybody's doing anything positive. So if you could, you know, get the local media into the schools and learn more about the kids, and the kids can learn more about the media, then I think that trust will be regained. But until then, it won't happen.
That's how it could happen. Adrianna, will it happen? And I'd be curious to know if this is a topic you and your mother, who, as I said last segment, is a news producer by profession, if this is a topic the two of you discuss.
Yes, sometimes it is. She believes that what Lee Allen was saying, that if the media takes time to show that they want to show the positive aspect of the youth of our country, and really want to show a kind of a different view, then definitely it will regain the trust of the class of '97, my peers, and people that.
Reka, if I were to say to you that there are statistics, and I don't know that there are, but I know people would make this argument, which show that people don't want to know good stories about teens volunteering, about teens making good grades, about teens not being on drugs. If what's sold, if the only way to sell newspapers, if the only way to get high ratings for a TV newscast were to do stories about prom queens having babies at proms, what would you say? Would you give up on the media entirely, or would you dispute that notion?
I wouldn't give up on the media entirely. I think the media is meant to inform and not entertain, and there's been a focus on entertainment. I think the facts should be stated briefly, and even the good stories, you can add hype to those and make them just as exciting as the negative stories. It's the negative stories which bring in, it seems, which bring in the money because of the way they're told. Because there's stories, there's TV movies made out of them. But if you take the same positive stories, the same great accomplishments that people have
and do them with
done,
a little style.
Yeah, and do them with style and present them properly, they could bring in just as much money as a bad story.
Lee Allen, last word to you, and I have to ask you to make it brief. Based on your experience, the fact that you won a major award for your documentary, that you've gotten a lot of attention because of it, does this give you some hope that, in fact, people like you can change media priorities if you're just diligent enough?
Yes, with the story that I've done, Ghetto Life 101, as well as more than 14 stories, we've put into a book entitled Our America. It's basically a description of our life, and I believe that in reading that book, that people, it's a better understanding of journalism, because we're not just journalists. We are from the community, so therefore we had a more genuine interest in doing our stories and doing our reporting, to me and my counterpart, Lloyd Newman.
All right. Thank all of you. Teens in the media, it's a subject that is there's a distressing perception among teens. We hope it changes, starting with Fox News Now, which comes up now.